There's so many strengths and superpowers, I think, that people with ADHD have that can make them excellent entrepreneurs. That sort of magic is really hard to recreate in people with neurotypical brains. Sometimes it can be a blessing and a curse.
At what point in life did ADHD become part of the scenery for you?
Looking back at it, it's obviously always been a feature in my life, but it's never even really registered for me up until about 4 years ago. That sort of made my world implode slightly and made me sort of stop and think, hang on, is there something else going on here?
What are the specific things that you find help you most when it comes to just working with the ADHD symptoms that you have?
I always throw hand grenades at myself. I always say yes to something, even though I know I'm not ready for it. That's time blindness as well.
So if you were advising anybody who's both ADHD and contemplating a startup, what would you advise?
How to prioritize. That's probably a super asset if you can create the right environment to help you prioritize.
Hannah Underwood is a visionary founder and social tech leader. She became a charity CEO at just 25 and has spent the past 17 years driving impact by leveraging data science and more recently AI. I've watched her turn bold ideas into real-world change. She now leads the How Might We community, connecting people, purpose, and data to build a fairer, more prosperous future. Hey, real quick, if you're building a business with an ADHD brain, don't miss my free tools in the show notes. The weekly ADHD dashboard and the Are You an ADHD Entrepreneur quiz. They're built to help you work with your brain, not against it.
Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Steve August here with the ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator, and I am super excited today because I have a near and dear friend who's joining us. I'm very excited for you to meet her. I want to welcome to the podcast Hannah Underwood. Hannah Underwood is founder of How Might We, a startup dedicated to answering the question, how might we use data, curiosity, AI, and human connection to turbocharge social impact? Hannah is a self-confessed charity data geek with oodles of experience using data in purpose-driven and impactful organizations. She spent 16 years as the CEO of Northeast UK youth charity The Key, as well as serving as a trustee and non-executive director for various wonderful organizations, including DataKind UK, Live in Housing, Virgin Money Foundation, and Newcastle University. She's also earned her stripes as a data strategy consultant and tech startup founder for dreaming up the vision for How Might We community. Hannah is all about building communities, open infrastructure, sharing skills, championing the Northeast UK, and taking real action to help people and communities to unlock their potential. When she's not trying to make the world a better place, you might find Hannah chasing her 3 small and often grubby children around various parts of Northumberland or being utterly terrified on stage as an amateur stand-up comedian. Welcome to the podcast, Hannah. Great to have you here.
Hey, welcome. Hi, really good to be here. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Where in the world do we find you today, Hannah?
So I'm in Newcastle. That's in northeast of England. So we're sort of like the highest city before you get into Scotland.
Yeah. Sting's hometown, right?
Yes, it is. You're right.
Yeah.
A lot of famous Geordies.
Yeah.
Worldwide. Yeah, Sting's probably up there.
Yeah, he's a...
Sam Fender. I don't know. If
Oh, I love Sam Fender.
in the US.
Oh my gosh, he's killing it right
Bread.
now. Yeah. What was that song? 17 Going Under.
17 Going Under. Yeah.
Dang. That's he may never write a song that good again. Well, it's great to have you here, and what I'm fascinated to learn more about your story and share it with other folks. I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last, 6 to 9 months now. And you came into my world through my quiz and my focus formula and you've been a part of my community, a co-working community and the accelerator ever since. And it's just been a pleasure getting to know you and see what you're creating. So I'm excited to dig in. So for people who are just meeting you right now, give us your backstory. How did you get into entrepreneuring and specifically this part of it, the social good side of entrepreneuring?
I mean, when my first sort of job out of uni was to work for a charity, and I worked with young people in that charity. So even though my degree was all sciences, so I'm sort of like technically a geek, I really enjoyed the opportunity to work with young people and to see how we could start to change their lives. And then quite quickly, I moved into a role that was all about data and helping small businesses to use data to drive their business performance forward. And that was okay, but I was really had this passion for helping young people. And then I got this opportunity, which is utterly bonkers now I think about it. So I became the CEO of a charity when I was 25. So I was actually still young enough to benefit from the services that the charity offers young
Oh,
people.
nice.
And so even though that's not like a traditional sort of entrepreneur role, I was like a boss from like 25 years old, and I was able to sort of take that charity where it needed to go, like over the course of the next 15 years. And really quite early on in that journey, I realized how useful data was to help us not just, know how to run the organization more effectively, but also how to understand how we were creating the change for young people. Because really, unless you like properly understand how, as a charity or an NGO, like your intervention delivers change, you can't optimize your resources around it. So I think, were maybe the first charity in the UK to have a data strategy, like
Wow.
back in 2008. And then I sort of went on this journey, being really greedy for accessing data talent and data professionals to help us to move our organization forward. And so right from early on, I had this sort of spark around helping charities to use data more effectively. And that's sort of manifested itself in my like current venture.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating because, in my experiences, which are admittedly more limited in a nonprofit and charitable organization, they tend to be really good at the qualitative capture of stories. Like, we help these people uh, achieve or improve their lives in some way, but getting a kind of like comprehensive data or seeing where that data intersects seems like more of a challenge. It's a different skill set than kind of the
Yeah.
more qualitative. So how does that actually work?
Well, so it is, I mean, it's a different skill set, yes, and that's often a skill set that's outside of what charities have. So they don't tend to have like data professionals internally. But I sort of position it as all focused around curiosity. So that's kind of why my new venture is called How Might We Community, because it's like, let's just focus on the questions. Like, what do you need to know? What do you want to know? What information will help you to drive your impact locally for the people that you work for, or help you to spend your resources more effectively, inform your decisions, spark innovation? All of it boils down to questions. And so I see like data as like catnip for my like curiosity, and it helps to sort of fuel it and help me to really dig into some of these like gnarly problems. And I think if you focus on like it from that human side, then the data just becomes an enabler for what that organization really wants to do, rather than trying to scare them with like talking about, even the word data can be quite scary.
Yeah, I imagine so. Is there an example that comes to mind of where the data really helped you make an impact and that you could demonstrate? Or like, I'm really curious to hear, how that all, like, when it works, what does it look like?
I have like hundreds of examples from the Key, because I was there for like 16 years. I mean, one thing that like we did at the Key was to ask the board, like we had targets and everything, like that's important, but we asked the board to judge us our success on how well we could answer certain learning questions that we would set up like at the beginning of each year. So one year we had a learning question was, how might we reduce the cost per head of our intervention, but without reducing the impact that it has on each of those individuals? So instead of just having a target for cost cutting,
Right.
like when we looked at it as a question, like a learning question, then actually each month that we were reporting back, it was like, well, you don't do this. So, like as long as we were like making discoveries and learning, like that was showing that we were making progress. And it's a bit of a long story, that one, but basically we because we had everyone curious in the organization, we had different people from different parts of the charity had realized that the average group size of young people that we were working with was going down. And when we unpicked it, we realized it wasn't actually going down. It was just that the youth workers had stopped. They found our systems irritating, and they knew that if they could, the minimum was 3. So if they entered 3 young people into the system, then that meant they could get onto the next step of the system. But there was actually 6 kids in the group. So when we discovered this, we went through a whole like cycle of like making improvements to the user interface, and engaging young people directly and them sharing the data with us directly. And so what happened is that we suddenly were able to show how we were working with pretty much twice as many young people that we thought we were.
Oh, amazing.
So we did reduce the cost per head on paper
Right.
of that intervention without reducing the impact. But it just gave us this huge insight into all these people that we were working to benefit, but we didn't realize.
Right. It's always amazing that there's a human factor wherever data is, because especially if humans are required to be, entering the data or contributing to the data, and the motivations can be different. Like a frontline person is just like, I just want to get on with it, without realizing the importance necessarily of why tracking this is super important, because ultimately it's going to determine the organization's ability to drive success. And so it's one of those learnings that I had when I was leading an organization is communicating the why of almost everything, or pretty much everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And making it super relevant for everyone. So I always start with the front line, the people that you're trying to support, and then the people who are actually collecting the data. They're the first ones that you need to engage. And if they can see how that data helps them do their job more effectively, like everything else downstream from that is you working with higher quality data, you can make better decisions.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to like force it through, do this for the funders, because they're not interested. Like they're like, no, I want to actually do youth work,
Exactly. Yeah. If they don't see the connection to the tangible connection to the mission and to what they're doing, and it's just for the mucky mucks and the higher ups, then the compliance will...
They don't know what the real world is like for these people that we're trying to support,
Exactly.
You've got all that going on.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And having to take this on at a very young age, for, a CEO to lead an organization. Had you had like management experience before taking on that role, or had you been in an organization where you got to observe people leading people, or?
I mean, I'd spent 1 year prior to that role running a non-profit. This was the one that helping SMEs. And I had like one administrator that I managed then at that time. So that was, and I did a postgrad diploma on that business. So like I'd learned the theory of leadership development, but I hadn't actually had a go at doing it. But I think, well, I mean, I don't know if this is appropriate to say but basically my second day in the job, I discovered that we were £1,500 overdrawn.
Oops.
We had payroll the next week, and this is when we were writing checks. So we gave kids money to do projects. So we had about 6 or 7 grand's worth of unreconciled checks out there that people could try and cash any moment.
Oh my
that
goodness.
was day 2.
Wow.
Of me in the job.
Yeah.
And so everyone else who was just like, who's this jumped up little 25-year-old coming in here? Like, we're not going to listen to her. And suddenly they're like, oh, we might not get paid next week. So it was like utterly terrifying, but also like I kind of had nothing to lose. And I managed to turn this problem around really quickly. I managed to get the bank to lend me some money. I worked out who owed us money. And solve the problem. And actually from that point forward, everyone was just like, right, all right, this is fine. You're going to be okay. Let's just get on with it.
Yeah.
So it was like horrible, like really in at the deep end, but actually that set me up, in terms of like reputation and relationships, like that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
Interesting experience as somebody leading a business, or whether it's a not-for-profit or if it's a for-profit, it's really those times where you can really earn the trust of of the bank, of the, to be able to get the money of the team who's coming in, and somebody's new coming in, they don't know anything. And, how could, she's young and whatever. And then you go save the day and you say, well, this is what's going on. We were overdrawn and nobody was going to get paid. The projects were not going to get funded. All these checks were going to bounce, and now they're not. But we can't, and here's how we're not going to let that happen again. And then people are like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
It's one of those things where we don't want challenges like that, but when we get them, they are opportunities. I can't tell you the number of times where service fails turn into like relationship builders, because if something like, I was in a software startup, so if something didn't work or something happened, but we came back to save the day, then the trust was actually deeper because they knew that we wouldn't let them down. So it's
I think that about like people who complain as well. Like I always like have a bit of a personal mission. I'm going to turn a complainant into like a raging fan.
right.
And
Mhm.
and if you manage that process for them, and then they become your biggest advocates, because their journey of liking you has gone from really not liking you to really liking you. That's like a bigger distance of likingness, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
So I found those people like those testimonials like live and breathe in like their lives afterwards. Like lots of people I've had talk just like, oh yeah, so and so, like you solved that problem for them, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. You make people feel seen, heard, rescued, and they'll go with you. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your personal journey with ADHD. So
Yeah.
at what point in life did ADHD become part of the scenery for you, or part of the landscape?
I think like looking back at it, it's obviously always been a feature
Yeah.
in my life, but it's never even really registered for me up until about 4 years ago. And I think there was really a combination of three things that were happening that sort of made my world implode slightly.
Yeah.
And made me sort of stop and think, hang on, is there something else going on here? But also I think like in my career I was like quite protected because so up until I left the Key, so I was the CEO there for 16 years, and then I had all these other non-exec like trustee roles, but they're all very structured. There's lots, we meet on these dates. I had to, although I was the boss, like I still had a board that I had to report to, and because I was so young, I think the board were like extra supportive, and they like made sure I didn't have enough rope to hang myself. I suppose, but like
So easy to get
enough
that.
to like, yeah. So, and I don't think I'd really realized like how much that was, how much that helped me to manage myself, I guess, in those situations. But when I left the Key, that coincided with me having my third child. So at that point, I had 3 children under the age of 6. And even like now, I think like in terms of deplete a small amount of executive function, like a lot of that is gone by 9 o'clock by the time I've managed to get them all up, get them dressed, get the sun cream on, get the bags packed, get them out to school on time. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
so like that alone just takes up a lot of focus. But I also, like my eldest daughter, there was some questions being raised about whether she had some sort of neurodiversity. And so that was making me think about like her patterns of behavior and how that was reflected in me. And she is a real daydreamer. So and it's actually, you can physically see the neurons firing in her brain because she sort of does this, like this, when she gets ideas and
Right.
she'll move around the room. And so it's visible in her, and I'm like, Pip, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I've had this idea, Mummy. And then
That's
and
awesome.
it's like, it's just so, it's so awesome. And she's so creative. And then I was thinking, where's all that coming from? And then I moved into this space where I was starting my own venture. Suddenly, no guardrails. A bit, how Might Be has a big fat vision.
Yeah.
And it's trying to tackle 3 wicked problems with 3 awesome solutions, all of which are interconnected. And I think like, without the brain that I've got, I don't think I could have come up with that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But also it's slightly scary because, there's so much potential that I've found it hard to sort of bring myself in and focus. And then I'm also a woman in my like mid-40s with all the sort of hormonal stuff that comes with that. I think that's probably played a thing. So all of these things combined made me start to question my own brain. And in the tech startup space, in the community here in the Northeast in particular, there's a really high proportion of people running tech startups who are neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And whereas that's not that common in the charity CEO space. So my sort of peer group changed, and lots of people they sort of assumed that they were like, oh yeah, like clearly Hannah has ADHD. But like, and then spoke to me as if it was already a thing. And I was like, hang on, wait.
Yeah.
So it's still, Yeah, so it hadn't even occurred to me until about 4 years ago. And I don't have a formal diagnosis. And I'm about to go through the process. I played around with the idea of, did I need to, did I not? And then sometimes feeling a bit sort of disingenuous, even, in group, even within your community, like I feel like, sometimes I feel like, does it matter that I haven't had like a formal diagnosis?
It does not.
The the well, and the tools and the techniques and the resources, it absolutely works a treat. So whether I end up with a diagnosis or not, like this is working for me, and I'm finding a way to manage myself and my own behaviors and put new habits in place, and it's working. So I guess it doesn't even really matter, does it?
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the things I see people going through my quiz. I have Are You a ADHD Entrepreneur quiz that people can take. Link in the show notes. A lot of people are experiencing ADHD symptoms, but not formally diagnosed. Like that's one of the questions of where you are in your journey. If you're experiencing it, it's almost like I encourage everybody to go through the process if you feel like it's a possibility, because it gives you some certainty. It gives you some access to other treatment paths that you won't have access to without it. But if you're experiencing it, you're still experiencing it. Like your experience is valid, right? And so, and if the tools, it's sort of like sometimes with other medical issues, they'll treat the symptom, and that's part of how they make the diagnosis. Like we're in a world that tends to make us all a little ADHD because we have the biggest brains, that are at these social media companies and other organizations who are basically all they're applying their skills and knowledge and expertise to hacking our attention and to grabbing our attention.
You're totally right. Like back when I first started at the Key, like we were still faxing stuff.
Right.
We still were like we had a franking machine. We were like posting stuff. Like, yes, we did use email and stuff, but like the competition for my attention was so different then than it is right now. So you think you like throw all those factors together, and that can be just like quite overwhelming, can't it? Especially when you're like ambitious and full of energy and like want to change the world.
Yeah. And there's so many options, right? That's the thing. ADHD brains tend to be more reactive in some ways because not only reacting to stuff from the outside, there's this constant stream of stuff, of ideas, of options, of feelings, thoughts that we're reacting to on the inside. And sort of the challenge is to take that reactivity and turn it into proactivity and channel it in good ways. So in terms of like what's working for you, like what are the specific things that you find help you most when it comes to just working with the ADHD symptoms that you have?
I think I'd found some things that had worked previously, but now, and I hadn't really understood why. So one thing, for example, I used to say, I always throw hand grenades at myself. People are like, what do you mean? I'd be like, well, I always say yes to something, even though I know I'm not ready for it. And partly that's time blindness as well, thinking, well, I'm not ready for that now. But by the time that podcast comes around, or that keynote speak, or that TED talk, like I'll be ready. Of course I will. And I go, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And often these things have like, they're quite public. So even the stand-up comedy thing was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And I knew that at the end of it, like I would have to stand up and do a set. Like, that's like exposing.
Yeah.
So I used to call them throwing them little hand grenades at myself, and it would just make me focus because I knew that I'd sort of get to the point where actually, I need to just sort this out now, focus, and if I've got this sort of scary deadline. And so I still do that, but in a much more controlled way so that it's not like going to completely send me over the edge or burn me out or like mean that all these other things suffer as a result of it. So I sort of like throw little accountability hand grenades, maybe, if that's a thing, but like at myself. One of the things as well is like I'm better able to sort of predict my own behavior. So even like within the course of a day, like I'm now much more aware about when I can get the best out of myself, and I like try then and zone all like the core work. So as we talk about in your sessions about, well, this is, keep focused on the North Star, and this is like the big rock. This is the salami slice now that I need to take. I'm going to spend this 2 hours doing this thing, and knowing that, okay, I might have loads of energy and focus for the rest of the day, and that's great if I do, but at least I've like got this thing done and moved this thing forward. So that's been like super helpful for me. And then I think the other bit's been has been around the community itself. So like the co-working groups has been like, we need to turn up at a certain time every day. And for me, it's like 4 p.m. because I'm over in the UK. So that means I always end the day on like a high as well. And normally I've got a bit of my brain back by the end of the day. So I can just do this final sprint and get like, which is really helpful. Like, so I feel this sort of pressure, like, oh, we've got 25 minutes. I'm going to get this stuff done. And it really just helped me focus. But actually I like enjoy it when other people are like, oh yeah, that thing I said I was going to do just 25 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I went in to cut and paste something from LinkedIn, and I ended up having an argument with someone, and now I've not done anything. Be like, oh my God, I started doing that.
Yeah.
And it just makes me feel a bit better about myself.
Yeah.
And, we're all like, you got this, right? Like, next time you've got another 25 minutes, you focus on the thing you need to. And I just love that sort of camaraderie where we're all like acknowledging that we all have these idiosyncrasies and
Absolutely.
and that's cool. That's fine. That's just part of who we are.
Yeah. I love that because that was the thing that I felt was missing in some other groups that I was in, was just this acknowledgement that, I can drop the mask. I'd love to be able to drop the mask and just say, yeah, that particular sprint, I was all over the place, but I'm good, right? I know where to go next. And I had somebody show up at the very last minute of a co-working session last week. And she said, I slept in, my brain needed it. I was okay with that, but I just wanted to just pop in at the very last minute, just so I had that sense of like accountability and a sense of like, hey, I'm still with it. And I did it the way I could for my brain, the way my brain could do it today. And it was just like, that's amazing. So
yeah, that's so cool.
It really, it's an amazing community, and, it's just been a joy having you as part of it, and really appreciate the spirit you bring to it. So if you were advising anybody who's both ADHD and contemplating a startup, what would you advise?
I mean, so one thing that I've found really useful, so depending what kind of startup it is, but so for me, like I'm used to reporting to a board as like a charity CEO. And so I've felt that I've needed those sort of that local group of people, but I don't want like an official board because it's like a private company. So I've created a team, like a group of people called the How Might We Backers. And like, these are like incredible people. Like, I reached out, some of them I'd known for a while, and they're like at the top of their game. All the sort of stakeholders related to what I'm trying to do at How Might We, and said, look, I'm doing this thing. I think you care about this, and this related to what I'm doing. Will you be part of this How Might We Backers? So will you like publicly cheerlead and open doors? And that's just set up this group now that I feel like, okay, I need to focus and deliver, because they've all said that they're backing me and they believe in what I'm doing. So it sort of gives me, again, it's a public thing, really, isn't it? It's like this sort of external public-facing view on what I'm doing. That means I can't just sort of retreat into the shadows and like quietly in the like I need to turn up and focus. So maybe, like, regardless of what the structure of your organization is, if you could have a sort of a group, it doesn't need to be as big as my backers group, but that you sort of are accountable to for the work that you're doing, especially if you're solopreneur, which I am at the moment, like just having that external group. I think certainly, enlisting the support of someone like yourself, like I would absolutely hands down do that, because that again is just like that extra community around you and the tools and techniques, and you'll find your way through like what works and what doesn't. I was listening to one of your previous podcasts that really resonated with me, like around the sort of the high proportion of entrepreneurs who do have ADHD, but that doesn't mean it makes them good entrepreneurs.
Right.
But there's so many strengths and superpowers I think that people with ADHD have that can make them excellent entrepreneurs, and is like that sort of magic that is like really hard to recreate in people with neurotypical brains.
Yes.
And so like lean into that stuff. Like sometimes it can be a blessing and a curse. So like for me, like I see opportunities everywhere, like everywhere. And even when I was running the Key, all these other youth charities were like, oh, there's no money, there's none this. And I was like, opportunities are not my problem. My
Right.
problem is seeing them all through.
Yes.
That's like
Mhm.
my problem. So that's amazing. And that's a great skill. But also if you don't like, it's finding a way to put some structure around that so that you're not constantly, opportunities, like how to prioritize. That's probably like a super asset.
Yeah, I think having that balance of where you can find people who are more executive function driven or abundant to partner with, and it's challenging. Because at the early stage, it is exploring lots of different opportunities and pathways. You don't know what's going to work yet, absolutely, until you try a bunch of stuff. So ADHD is absolutely, to me, like a superpower for starting. It's like, it's where this, all the spark, all that randomness, all that ability to get, find things from everywhere and bring them to bear on a particular issue or problem that you want to solve is amazing. And you're right. It's about the execution. And I think what you talked about was something we talk about with ADHD in terms of execution is using one side of the ADHD experience to help with another side. So if execution and follow through is a challenge, which it often is, another challenge is rejection sensitivity and fear of disappointing people. So we use that fear of disappointing people, your hand grenade analogy, to like drive the execution side of things. And yeah, it is its own kind of experience, but it's how we get, sometimes it's how we got to get stuff done if we're, and it works.
Yeah. Well, I think you're totally right as well about surrounding yourself with people who are, that is their skill set, is their execution.
Yeah.
And fight, so that not trying to force yourself to do the finance.
Yeah.
Admin, or like, the stuff that you're just like, this is like walking through treacle.
Yeah.
Like try to find ways to bring the right people around you who love that stuff.
Yeah.
They love it. They love the routine and the satisfaction of the tick, tick, tick. And, great. Bring those people around you.
God bless them. Yeah.
They would hate to stand on stage and do stand up or like do a talk.
Oh my gosh, that'd be terrifying for them. So awesome. Well, it's been so great talking with you today, Hannah. I really appreciate you spending time with us on the podcast. We'll put the links in the show notes, as well as the link to your TED Talk, which I watched and was awesome. Really great to see you, make your case. And so definitely check out Hannah and How Might We? And that's it for this episode of ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. Hannah, thank you so much for being with us today. It was a real pleasure.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you.